Hello everyone, this is Savita Acharya. In this video lecture, we will see what is meant by components of simulation. In the previous video, we have seen how a Verilog program looks like. Of course, you don't know the entire syntax of the program, but I'm sure you are having an idea of how the structure of a Verilog HDL program looks like. We have seen the example for 4-bit ripple carry counter in which the 4-bit ripple carry counter will be the top level block, and inside this top level module the T flip-flop is instantiated 4 times. That is, 4 instances of the T flip-flop are invoked. Okay, and since I have used T flip-flop as a component in the top level block, I need to define the module T flip-flop. So I have a program for a T flip-flop. Inside that, you must have seen we have again instantiated a D flip-flop and a NOT gate. So NOT gate, as I have told you, it is a Verilog primitive gate. So it is inbuilt. But D flip-flop I need to define because it is user defined. So I have one more module for a D flip-flop where I describe the behavior of the D flip-flop. So this is how the structure of the program. Now this program is called as the design block. Now once the design block is completed, it must be tested. Right? It must be tested. So the functionality of the design block can be tested by applying stimulus and checking the result. So it is not enough if you just write the program or the Verilog code for realizing the circuit, but you also need to verify whether it is functioning exactly as you have designed for. Okay, so this is done by something called as a stimulus block. So the stimulus block also is written in Verilog, where you apply stimulus, that is you give values to the various inputs of the design, and from the design output you take out and display the result. So the stimulus block is also commonly called as a test bench. There are two types of applying the stimulus. The first one is the stimulus block behaves as a top level module, and inside that it instantiates the design block. Okay, so you can see here the stimulus block is the top level module, and inside the stimulus block you have instantiated the design block, that is the ripple carry counter. The ripple carry counter has got two inputs, clock and reset, and output Q. So the stimulus block manipulates these input signals, that is clock and reset, and checks for the output on the output signal Q. The other method of applying stimulus is instantiating both the stimulus block and the design blocks in a top level dummy module. So here you can see that the outer box is a top level dummy module inside which both the stimulus block and the design block are instantiated. The design block has got terminals clock, reset and Q. And so here the stimulus block will also have corresponding signals D underscore clock for clock, D underscore reset for reset, C underscore Q for Q. So the stimulus block is responsible for applying stimulus on the input signals, and it displays the output that comes to C underscore Q, which is connected to the output of the design block, that is Q. I have displayed the design block again for your reference. The design block comprises of the top level module, that is the ripple carry counter. This has got three terminal lists, that is Q out as the output and clock and reset are the inputs. The ripple carry counter consists of 4 component instantiation lines, that is which instantiates the T flip-flop 4 times. The connections we have seen in the previous lecture. So since T flip-flop is a component used or instantiated in the top level block, there should be a program which defines, there should be a module which defines the functionality of the T flip-flop. So here is that module T underscore flip-flop with the terminal list Q, clock and reset. The T flip-flop in turn consists of two more component instantiation lines. That is, one is the D flip-flop with the 4 IOs and one NOT gate, which is a Verilog provided primitive. So this is inbuilt, this is already defined to the Verilog, whereas this D underscore flip-flop is user defined. Now the job of the designer is to define the module D flip-flop. So the D flip-flop once again is this, where you have defined the functionality of the D flip-flop. So here is the module definition line with inputs Q, D, clock and reset. And the characteristics of the D flip-flop is given by a behavioral modeling style wherein you are using the if-else statement to describe the functionality of the D flip-flop. So here if reset is 1, then Q is 0, else Q is equal to D. This is how we write the stimulus block. So we'll consider the first method of writing the test bench. That is, we instantiate the design block inside our stimulus block. So remember that our design block is the ripple carry counter. This is the name what you have given while designing the ripple carry counter. So this block is instantiated, this module is instantiated inside the stimulus block. So writing the stimulus block or the test bench, it is commonly called as, is same as writing the Verilog program. So it begins with the module keyword followed by the name of the stimulus module. So I have given the test bench name as stimulus. And this does not have any terminal list. That is why there is no terminal list enclosed here, because the stimulus block does not need to communicate with the external circuitry. So don't worry about the remaining syntax right now. This is the instantiation line. That is, inside the stimulus block, we are instantiating the design block. That is, ripple carry counter is the name of the design block that I have given, and R1 is the instance name followed by the terminal list. Now the ripple carry counter module consists of one output, that is 4-bit output Q, and two inputs clock and reset. So the stimulus block should apply input to the design block. So first one is the clock. So clock is a train of continuous pulses. So to give the clock input, what we do is we first initially make the clock equal to 0, and then I say that always for every 5 time units toggle the clock, meaning the clock will initially start with the 0. Okay, for initially it will be 0, and after 5 time units, so this is 0, and after 5 time units I say toggle the clock. Toggle means it will become 1. This is at 5 time units. So this will remain to be at 1. So again this is always, so this will be, this block will be continuously executing always. So after 5 time units, that is 5 minutes from 5 time units from 5, that will be at 10, the clock will toggle again. So at 10 it will become equal to 0. Again at 15 it will become again equal to 1. Then at 20 it will become equal to 0, and so on. So this is how we generate the continuous train of clock pulses. So the cycle period of this clock pulse is 10 time units. The next input that the design block has is the reset. Now the stimulus block is also responsible for applying the reset input. So for reset, initially we make it as 1 at the time t equal to 0, we make reset equal to 1. And after 15 time units, we make reset equal to 0. So that is from this is what at time 0, and this is at time 15. So 0 plus 15, this will happen at 15 time units. Now after 180 time units, that is after 180 means from 15 another 180 time units, that will be 15 plus 180, that is 195. After 195 time units, the reset will become 1 once again. From this point, again the next line says after 10 time units, that is 195 plus 10, that is at 205 time units, the reset will become 0 again. And after 20 time units, that means from 205 plus 20, that is 225 time units, the simulation will stop. That is, this finish is a internal inbuilt function. Okay, so this is how you apply the stimulus. Now the next part is we need to verify the results. So we have to see whether the output is coming as per desired. For that we have this monitor function which will monitor or display the output whenever there is a change in the output. Okay, whenever there is a signal change in the output, the monitor function will display the value on the monitor. So this function again is inbuilt, which takes out the time at which Q changes, and this function displays the value of Q. As per the test bench, the clock cycle period is 10 time units. That is, it will be off for 5 time units and on for another 5 time units. So the cycle period is 10 time units, and the reset will be high from 0 to 15 time units. Okay, so initially the reset is 1, and hence the counter will be reset to 0. So at 15 time units, that is, this is 5, 10 and 15, this is 15, the reset is going low. Once the reset goes low, now the normal counter will take over. So the counter we have written for the negative edge of the clock. So for the next immediate negative edge of the clock, the counter will start counting. That is, from 0 it will become 1. For the next negative edge of the clock, it will become 2, 3, 4 and so on. It will go up to 15, and the cycle repeats, that is 0, 1, 2 again. That is, as per the test bench, next reset signal goes high after 180 time units. That is, after 15 180 time units means this point will be 195 time units. At this point the reset will go high. Okay, so when the reset goes high, the counter will be again reset. It will become 0. This reset will stay at 1 only for another 10 time units, that is up till 205. So at this point the reset will go low, and hence the from the next negative edge of the clock, the counter will continue to count. This is how the output appears when it is displayed on the monitor. This is the clock signal. It's a train of continuous pulses. So reset is high at time t equal to 0, and because of this reset signal, the counter will be reset to 0 initially. At t equal to 15, so at 0 Q is 0. At t equal to 15, reset will become 0. Once the reset becomes 0, the counter will start counting. But our counter will respond only for the negative going transition of the clock pulse. So the negative going transition after the reset becomes 0 only happens at t equal to 20. Say this is 15, 15 plus 5. At 20, the negative transition occurs, and at this point the counter will start incrementing. So at 20, q will become 1, at 30 q is 2, at 40 q will become 3, and so on. It counts up to the maximum count, that is 15, and again the cycle repeats from the beginning. At t equal to 195 time units, the reset is becoming once again for another 10 units. So when the reset becomes 1, immediately the counter will be reset to 0. So at 195 q is 0, and till 205 the q reset is 1, and at 205 units the reset will become equal to 0. So the next negative going transition will happen at 210, that is, this is 205 plus 5 is 210. So at this point the counter will start counting. So at 210 q is equal to 1, 220 q is equal to 2, and so on. So in the test bench we have given after 205, after 20 nanosecond, 20 time units, we have given the inbuilt finish function, that is to stop the simulation. So that is 205 plus 20. At 225 the simulation will be stopped. So here the output is displayed only till 220 time units. In this video we have learned how to simulate a design block using test bench. Thank you for now.